Welcome to Tales of Resilience, a podcast honoring the heart behind animal rescue. I'm your host, Jolene Feeney, a mental health therapist, lifelong animal lover, and founder of Zodipaws and Animal Rescue Hub. This is a space for real conversations with the people who care for animals when no one else can. From shelter teams and wildlife rehabbers to transporters, vet techs, and nonprofit leaders. We talk about the joy, the grief, the burnout, and the moments that remind us why we keep showing up. Whether you've lived this work or just want to understand it more deeply, thank you for listening. Let's get into today's story. This episode may include references of animal suffering and death, as well as themes of mental health, including suicide. Welcome to Tales of Resilience. I'm Jolene, your host, and I'm so happy to introduce you to our guests today. Today we have a dynamic duo from PDX Cat Trappers, a 100% volunteer-run organization that uses TNR, which stands for Trap-Neuter-Return, to stop the unchecked breeding of community cats. Karen Jealous, the founder of PDX Cat Trappers here, and her right-hand person, Emily Richardson, a registered nurse by trade and one of the primary points of contact for members of the community. So welcome, both of you, and thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, excellent. Well, hopefully those introductions were okay. Very excited to kind of dig in here. So first off, I like to just kind of start out really hearing about how organizations such as PDX Cat Trappers get started. So can you start off by telling us more about the journey to how PDX Cat Trappers got started and what it was like to get from there to here?
Okay, well, I think it really first started when my kids were becoming teenagers and they didn't really want to do stuff with me anymore. And I was looking for something to kind of occupy my time. And I read an opinion piece about a woman who had a cat rescue. And I thought, oh, that sounds really cool. I think I'll do that. So I reached out and started like fostering kittens. And she would bring me kittens for just a few days before they would go to the rescue they would go to. And it was a lot of turnaround, but then I ended up with like a set of ringworm kittens really quickly. But I was also like, where are these kittens coming from? Like, this isn't really a sustainable practice to just bring in kittens. Like, what more can we do? And that's when I found out more about TNR, about trapping feral cats. And I had remember hearing about it a long time ago, but I had been kind of out of it, raising kids, and so that's how it kind of started. So I got involved with her, and then like that organization didn't had like had some issues, and then I got involved with some other women, and then that's when I kind of realized that just because you want to rescue cats doesn't necessarily mean that everything else is in alignment, that there's really a lot of other things that go into it to make sure that you guys are all on the same page. And so then I was a solo person for a while, just doing trapping, and started aligning myself with people that were more like me with my goals, and ended up starting up another nonprofit within a few years. And we've put together a fantastic team that is really in alignment with our mission of staying true to TNR.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I suppose that would be kind of eye-opening. You just start something and you just see this kind of never-ending cycle happening and starting to ask those questions, right? How does this stop, right? How does this get to a place where it's sustainable?
Right. Because just getting kittens doesn't do any, that's gonna be a constant, right? So it's really about getting it further up in the cycle to get it to stop.
Yeah, great. And Emily, when did you join the team?
In about 2023, I had been following Karen and a couple other people, and they would just put out, hey, I'm gonna go trap at X location. Anybody wants to meet me? And I just thought, what a great opportunity to finally be a part of these people I've been liking and following and sending food to, and great, good luck trapping, wishing them the best. And I went out one night with someone who's no longer with the group, and it was just a really great experience. And then she liked me, so she was like, you should really go out with Karen. So I got hooked up with Karen and ended up in a situation that I just thought I'll never be in situations like this without doing this kind of work. And they had their first board meeting, and I showed up, and everybody was kind of sitting around introducing themselves. And one of the kind of top people in the group at the time was like, "Yeah, so why are you here?" And I was like, "Well, I'm here to vaccinate cats." And she's like, "Well, what makes you qualified to vaccinate cats?" And I'm like, "I mean, I stab people at work all the time. Like, I'd assume I could figure out how to stab a cat." And she was like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "Am I in the right place?" Like, I just wasn't really sure if it was really the place for me, but I thought, Karen gave me a hat when I left the meeting. She was really excited to like get people on board, and we made plans to go vaccinate kittens a couple days later. And I pretty quickly I became like the mobile vaccination person over the next couple weeks, and it's just really snowballed from there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it's a cool evolution though. I mean, being able to uh, be a passive participant, right, in the background, watching, encourage,
Yeah.
donating, and then all of a sudden feeling compelled to like, I'm gonna go help.
Yeah, I was like, what else do I have to do with my time? I mean, I work a lot, but I was like, I don't have anything in my life that fulfills me. So it felt good to get out there and do something that was kind of outside of my comfort zone. And other than loving cats and having personal cats, I really didn't know anything about cats. I just knew that I loved cats. And that's kind of what got me started and got me into all of this.
Awesome. Yeah. Um, have you both been around animals your whole life? Has this interest in helping animals been there for as long as you can remember, or is this something that has kind of developed over time?
Yeah, we had always had like a little dog growing up. My dad wasn't a fan of cats, but I would bring home stray cats and he would take them to the pound, right? We lived across from a school and a park, and people would dump off their cats, and they would end up in our yard, and and that always was just kind of upsetting. Back then the pounds were not great, and then we moved out to a farm, and we had farm animals, and I really liked taking care of the farm animals, and then I've just continued to always bring home strays, and but I never really, I remember I wanted to go to veterinary school, but then I heard that they, practiced on animals, and I just thought that was just horrific.
Mhm.
And I was at a young enough age where that I just took that off the table for my life, and I really wish that I hadn't, but but and then just going through life, I've always had animals. I've always had cats mainly, and if I when I was married, we had a dog. But so then I just this was just something where it's not like I can make a difference. I can kind of make up for being inactive for, a few decades, and maybe make the world a better place. And then once you get involved, you're kind of like, oh my gosh, this is such a much bigger problem. And and it really impacts the whole community and everyone in the community in one way or another. And so I kind of feel like this is my calling too. It's a little more adrenaline going. If you never know what you're going to get, you never know what you're going to find. It's always something different. And then there's also the social work aspect. And
Mhm.
that is something that's always been, near and dear to my heart, and being really compassionate. So I feel that that's kind of like it's all tied into one. And so it's not a neat bundle, but I think it works out really well.
I've always been a one cat family. We had a black cat growing up, and he was amazing. He had been an outdoor cat when we got him, and when we got him from the pound, I remember him being all scraggly and nobody wanted him. And we were like, that's the cat we're getting. Like, we're taking that black scraggly cat home. So I remember that being kind of my first experience getting a cat. And my parents had had cats growing up too, always black cats. So I and then when he passed, my dad was like, we're not getting any more animals. It was really hard on him emotionally, and he just couldn't put his heart out there again. And took me, I think it took me 5 years to get Ming. And I came home one day, and he had gone to the Oregon Humane Society and gotten her on a snow day, and was like, she had blue eyes. I had to bring her home. And she was our first Siamese. And She actually just turned 18 last week. So I've always loved cats. I've always been a cat person. And I think that they should get to live a life free of breeding and whether they want to be your friend or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Um, from what I gather in our kind of brief pre-conversation, there is a lot happening behind the scenes at any given moment. So I'm wondering if you could maybe paint a picture of a bit of what you do, maybe even what a typical day or week or whatever maybe seems to encapsulate that best time frame, what that looks like for you guys typically.
Emily, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I
Because
was
you're
gonna
kind of
say, I think
earlier in
it
the
might.
process.
Yeah. So what that looks like for us is people go on the website and they put a request in for help. Um, they just answer some short questions for us to kind of give us an idea of what the colony might look like. You know, are you feeding on a schedule? If so, what time? It's really important that people reach out to Feral Cat Coalition of Oregon to get spots. So once they reach out, we kind of check out the situation and then we ask them to reach out to Feral Cat Coalition. We also call them just kind of, hey, what's your deal? You know, how long have you been feeding the cats? How many cats are you feeding? Kind of what's the neighborhood look like for the cats? Is it a welcome situation? Are you hoping to rehome them? A lot of times people say, I need these cats gone. And that's a big misconception for us is that we remove cats and we don't. We
Okay.
refuse to do that.
Yeah.
So we get the email, we kind of sort them out depending on what they need. And then Karen and I talk about the location. And sometimes she has this huge map with every colony she's ever been reported to. So she'll be like, oh, this is either near here. So we kind of figure out what the history might be of that location. And then depending on if there may be, you know, a huge population explosion getting ready to happen, we may go and specifically trap a few pregnant cats to try to help them get to their feral cat coalition appointment. And by doing that, we have to do it through private vets who offer us appointments at a discounted rate. They are not free.
Mm-hmm.
They are definitely much cheaper than what the community is paying to spay and neuter a cat right now, which is $600 to $1,000. So we do that. And then once we get them into Feral Cat Coalition, we try to divert some of their kittens. And then we fix everybody. We get people medical care if they need it. And then hopefully we wrap up that location. We help with food support and housing structures for outside. And then that's kind of the end of it. But I mean, that could take us 3 to 6 weeks from
Wow.
the day they reach out to the day we can actually get the majority of the cats fixed. Because we are reliant upon the schedule at FCCO because we don't have a clinic of our own, which is also a huge misconception.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
we're a group full of vets and vet techs who are just laboring hard every day fixing cats.
Okay.
And while
Right.
I wish that I could be trained to do something like that, that is unfortunately not the reality.
Yeah. And do you, Emily, do you have a full-time job?
I work Monday through Friday. I'm a registered nurse. I actually work at the VA. I work in the operating room.
Yeah.
So a regular normal day for me is I wake up at 5 a.m. I check my phone. I check my emails. If there's a cat going to clinic, maybe I go to bed early. Karen goes to bed late. I go to bed really early. So sometimes I don't know what cat's going to clinic the next day. So I wake up at 5 a.m. I get my information sent to the clinic first thing so that they know who's coming. I've already managed transport to and from clinic. Karen's house is our drop off.
Mm.
And so I kind of like make sure everything's good because once I get started at 7:10, I'm most likely scrubbed into surgery. So I can't be checking my phone.
Yeah.
So I've got to get all of my stuff done before I leave my house at 6 a.m. for the rescue, in addition for myself for the day. Sometimes I may be transporting a cat to Karen's. So it means I'm leaving my house 30 minutes earlier, depending on where I'm picking that cat up and
Right.
getting it to her place. And then, or maybe I've got a bunch of meds I need to drop off at Foster's houses on the way. My mornings are kind of different depending on what's needed for the upcoming 24 hours that I may or may not be available because I also take a lot of calls. So when my shift's over, I might not actually get to leave work. So
Okay.
at 5:30, I may be going out the door, but I also may be getting ready to scrub in for a 10-hour procedure. So
Okay. Wow.
my life is kind of planned, but also I'm really type A, so I have to have everything done, or I'm kind of a mess. Other people might not realize it, but I am a mess.
That is fair.
Yeah.
I think in all my conversations with people, I think that's the thing that kind of amazes me the most is how able people are to keep, going through their days. But, yeah, it's a little messy, behind the scenes. But
Yeah, last week we had a cat who went in Wednesday for a wound change, and they kept her Wednesday through Friday for like a med spa treatment stuff. They just went really hard on her wound care. And 4:45 rolls around. I'm like, oh my God, pretty girl's still at the clinic. Like, oh my God, I'm like freaking out. So I call them, but then I'm also checking my email at the same time. And I'm like, oh my God, Karen emailed me an hour and a half ago. And then I'm like, I hang up on them. They're like, oh, we hung up on you. So now I'm like playing phone tag and trying to get transport and trying to figure out where it just, on a Friday, it was just like, blah.
yeah, just a little frazzled about it.
Yeah. And you
Yeah.
sometimes have to just stop and be like, okay, what is urgent right now? And that's getting her picked up.
Yeah, absolutely. Karen, is there anything you want to add to that, just kind of day in, day out, or share any insight into what is demanded of you in this work?
Yeah, so it took probably a little bit for Emily and I to get used to working with each other because I am up late. I am not a type A, and and yeah, I'm one of those, like, because I can do all the planning in the world, and then you go out to trap a colony and it's not four cats, it's 14 cats. You got two litters of kittens you didn't know about and they didn't tell you, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, there's this other over here," and you're just like, "Oh my God, I did all this planning, talk to them, they told me what they had," and then it changed because now you're talking to the neighbor that has 25 cats roaming. So, so even you can do your best planning and you still don't even really know what you have. And there's nothing worse really than showing up to a place and realizing that, like, oh, I didn't know you were asking about the kittens. We have three litters, and now I'm like on the phone with Emily and Brooke, our foster coordinator lead, like, oh my God, do we have, what do we have? Like, we don't even know what we have. Or, oh, there's sick kittens and they're getting ready to lose their eyes, and you're just like,
Hmm.
oh my gosh, and you're have it's so you never know what you're going to have when you get out there. So but it's Emily and I work really well together. She knows how I do. I know I have to have everything to her even if it's like at 2 a.m. so she has it when she wakes up at 5. A typical day for me is I work 8 to 5 at a with a contractor, and so I'm at the office at my computer all day, mostly. And but I try to line up, I'm trying to line up in advance. What are appointments? When do I need to trap? I need to have all my equipment clean and ready. So sometimes I'm leaving work right at 5 with my car packed to go trap. Other times I just run home really quick and load up my car. I go home at lunch and load up my car. When it's so hot, like right now, you're not trapping at 5:30 anyways. You've got to kind
Hmm.
of wait. So now I've got leeway. But like in the winter months, it's really hard because it's already dark. And a
Yes.
lot of like older people feed their cats at dark. So sometimes they're feeding them at 4:30. So it's really important to get there as soon as possible. Um, I get up, sometimes I'm running cats to the Feral Cat Coalition in the morning before work. Most of the time, the check-in and appointments are there's like one that's really early. I can do it before work if I need to. But normally we try to not have me do a lot of transportation because I'm doing all of the trapping. Cats are at my house in the garage. We have a table set up. People come
The
in, put
cleanup.
pets.
She's doing the large part of the cleanup too for
Okay.
all the traps, which is not
Mm,
easy.
okay.
You know,
Okay.
yeah. So, I mean, you've got to wash like 20 traps to get ready for, they have to be washed, they have to be disinfected, and you're out there, with your hose, washing them and scrubbing them. And so it's, you have all the cat laundry. So every trap has a trap cover. And so all of that is getting washed. All of the fabric that's in your car while you're transporting cats back and
Mm,
forth is getting washed. If you have kennels going, all of that is getting washed. There's a lot of laundry. There's a lot of just equipment maintenance kind of thing happening. And so it just doesn't make sense for me to do transport when other people can do transport. I do the feral clinic because I'm usually trapping until maybe, I don't know, 9, 10, 10:30, sometimes later at night. And I have the cats. So just, and I can drop them off before work. So it makes, but I can't do pickup. So we have to arrange for someone to pick up at 4 every day because I'm still working.
yeah.
So
Yeah, it's just amazing to hear everything that has to be considered. I mean, I think that, for the average person just observing or, even just acknowledging that, like you guys exist, that PDX Cat Trappers exists, we can see the Instagrams, but we, have no idea everything that
The
goes in.
amount of hours, the amount of miles
That's
that
what I
we're
was just thinking. I was
in.
thinking that's it. That sounds like so many hours. Yeah, I didn't even think about how much travel. So yeah, it's
Well, and planning for clinic isn't just like, for example, we have a clinic spot tomorrow. So I text Karen and another trapper. We only have about 3 or 4 trappers right now.
okay.
So we're really limited. So I text Karen and another trapper today and said, hey, what's up with our appointment for tomorrow? And as of right now, we don't have a cat. But, I know for a fact we will have a cat going to clinic tomorrow.
Okay.
But it's going to mean that we're going to need, 2 or 3 options in case they go to trap tonight and they both strike out. Like, what's going to be our backup? Because it costs us to do a no-show appointment, so we have to cancel it. But it's also a waste of an appointment. I mean,
Yeah.
we want to fix cats. And if we're canceling appointments, those clinics then think like, oh, well, maybe they don't need us scheduling because I get the appointments for the month. They give me the
Okay.
month appointments like the last week of the prior month. So I know what we have coming up. And so if we start just canceling like, oh, hey, we don't have a cat, they're not going to start keeping those spots for us because that's also money for them. They're
Exactly.
choosing to take those discounted spots away from the community. And we have to honor them by filling them is how I feel.
Yeah, you want to be a good steward of that business
Because
partnership.
we really value their time and the the effort that they want to put in and they believe in our mission.
Absolutely.
Emily is really fantastic about scheduling out for all of our, almost all of our clinics. And so, yeah, we do know. But so that means that even when we're not trapping our feral cats, we have other appointments that we're doing. We have appointments on Mondays, some on Tuesdays, some on Wednesdays, some on Thursdays. And then the feral cats are rolling in like Wednesdays, Thursdays, or Fridays. And those get scheduled out far as well. The people we're helping call and get on the schedule. But so then we've got like this calendar that has all the different clinics and all the different appointments. And so there have been some weeks where we have had appointments at multiple clinics every day of the week. And so that is a lot of transport coordinating. That's a lot of like, and someone has to go pick up those cats or trap the cats or hold the cats. And so there's a lot of work behind the scenes to pull that off. Not to mention, we're fundraising like mad for these appointments. We're paying for these appointments. None of these appointments are free. And so even though we have secured discounts, they're still averaging what, 150 right now for,
It's 180 for a pregnant female spay.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
It's
So
actually closer to 210 for a pregnant female spay. But ways that we kind of minimize those costs, they let us store vaccines there. So
Okay.
we can pre-purchase our vaccines and store them there. We can do some of the tests we can buy and have them there. Microchips, we can buy those. Because those are just it's a big cost. They're charging $60 for an FBRCP vaccine, which costs 5. So, I mean, we're
Okay.
able to
Okay.
really
Yeah.
kind of shave off a few dollars here and there when you're doing, 4 or 5 cats a week at a private vet clinic.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it sounds like we've maybe touched on some misconceptions that people might have. I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking, yeah, I had no idea. But yeah, that you guys don't have a clinics, just full-time staff with vets and working diligently every day. in that capacity, and certainly not aware of the day-to-day stuff. Are there any other misunderstandings that people might have about the work that you do? What would be something that you want people to understand?
That we are paid full-time employees.
At
People
other places.
At other places, yes.
Yes, but that we are not paid for the work that we're doing with PDX Cat Trapper.
Yeah.
And I think that, when people ask us to help them and it's a situation where we can't help, it's rehoming, rehoming a lot, especially feral cats. We push really hard that, once you fix a feral cat, whatever terrible things they're doing to your house are going to stop. They're going to quit caring about your male cat. They're going to quit urinating all over your car, So the misconception is that because we refuse to rehome those cats and relocate them, that we won't do anything for them. And that can be really difficult when people are really upset with us for not doing anything, but we always offer to fix the cats. Like that, we are always willing to help fix the cats, but we are not willing to rehome cats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm going to touch on that actually
Yeah.
I'm going to touch on that when we talk about like impactful stories later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think also sometimes people will message us and they think that maybe they're the only one that has a problem, or they think that like we should be rushing to them right now because this is an emergency, and it's like 3 feral cats, and it's like we have a request right now for 60 to 70 adult cats and multiple kittens, and we're going to be putting together a plan, but this is going to involve, probably we're going to have to rope in multiple groups on this one and figure out what's the real solution here. But like we get so many requests, and Emily can better talk to this, but we get multiple requests a day, and each one as time goes on, we're seeing an increase in the size of our colonies. We're in ranging from 8 to 12 cats. Now it's average 20 to 30 cats. We're seeing less ability for the caregivers to care for them due to benefits being cut, just various prices being high. We're seeing
physical abilities are changing quickly.
Sure.
Yes, we're, home issues, house issues, houseless issues, like that housing insecurity is starting to take hold. We're having another thing is a corporate takeover kind of the mobile home park. So people are getting threatening with eviction if they continue to feed them. And so that's just, we're seeing a lot of things like that are having this, it's increasing our load. The counties do not do what we're doing. Like we're definitely picking up the slack here. And so that's something that, we're trying to do the best we can. But again, we all have paying jobs, not in animal care. We're fully reliant on donations. We're fully reliant on our volunteers.
Yeah, we're getting close to 25 to 50 requests a week for help. And another misconception, I think that maybe not so much related to, what we do, but the misconception I think is that people think they're alone and that they're the only person experiencing this situation. And there's just so much shame that comes with it. And so I think that that's a huge misconception, is that you're not alone and that there is a way out. And getting rid of the cats is not the only option for the way out.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, it's interesting, it is easy to probably think about it as this very singular thing, or, see yourself, I'm sure it's hard for just any average person to imagine that there are so many cats, so many issues happening all at one time, right? So it's probably easy to get to that place of like, I just have 2 cats or 1 cat that you just need to come take care of, so it's hard probably on that scope. And I think even just the broader understanding of what you guys are witnessing and the where that's coming from. Like you get kind of a cultural picture, right? Like what's
Yeah.
happening in our world and the ripple effect of those things.
And it's easy for an onlooker to say, oh my God, how did she end up with 40 cats? Until that same person ends up with a stray female cat giving birth under her patio. And now she has 6 kittens that the organ that nobody will take because they're full. She can't give them away because everybody's already gotten a free kitten and found out it's $600 to $1,000 to fix. And now she's got kittens that have now aged out and are ready to also start breeding. So now this person who thought, well, how could that one person have all these cats, also now has a mom who's pregnant again and 6 kittens who are 4 females, and her colony is also going to be 30 cats in the next 2 months.
Yeah.
So, and I think that it's important that people remember that it's not, people can end up with a bunch of cats and have the best intentions.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that really paints a picture. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. As we kind of make a shift into the concept of resilience, I do like to start with talking about the animals. Animals do have a way of demonstrating a lot of resilience and things to learn and take away from that. But is there an animal in particular that has changed you, or a story of any kind of unexpected healing or transformation? Anything that you would want to share in that aspect?
Emily, do you want to go first on that?
Yeah, so my story actually ends with a dog. And for the background, I didn't say it because I just don't think it's appropriate, but I am not really a dog person. I love animals, but I'm not really a dog person. And we had a veteran reach out on our website. He had a bunch of feral cats. He reached out last summer and we asked him, reach out to FCCO, please let us know when you get a date. Months went by, we never heard from him, kind of like most people that reach out. And he reached out again in the winter and was really stressed again. And the response again was, please reach out to Feral Cat Coalition. And he wrote back with a really nasty note, what are you guys any good for? Just really ripped us a new one. And at the time, I had someone else had kind of started taking over the email. And I was upset because I'm like, nobody's going to talk to Liz like that. So I thought, I'm going to call this person. So I called him from work because I also didn't want him having my phone number. And he's like, answers the phone. I tell him, hi, I'm Emily, PDX Cat Trapper. I'm a volunteer. And he's like, why are you calling me from the VA? And I'm like, I'm on my lunch break. I just figured I'd, reach out to you. I just got your email. And he was like, yeah, I'm really sorry about that, ma'am. I'm really sorry about that, ma'am. I'm just really going through it. And he proceeds to tell me how he's an Army veteran. He's getting ready to go through a divorce. These were his wife's cats. She refused to get them fixed. Now he's got all these cats. She's left him. He's disabled. He's homebound. Just, he got me. He got me in my heart. And I was like, I told him, I called you to genuinely rip you a new one. I did not plan to like you. So I said, let me call Karen and see what we can do. And I called Karen. I told her the story and I was just like, we got to do something for this guy. So we ended up getting all the cats fixed through private vets mostly, and we were able to get a lot off of the property as well. He lived on a weird street too. We don't normally try to get cats off the property, but if it's an unsafe situation and we can try to accommodate that, we do. And over the time of, talking, we texted a lot. And towards the end of our getting the cats fixed, he had told Karen, he didn't tell me, that he had been diagnosed with cancer and that it was incurable. And then his wife was then going to be kicking him out of the house and selling the house. And he was moving to Idaho. And he was like, can you take my dog? And I was just like, what am I supposed to tell this guy? Like, he wasn't fixed. He was 8 months old and he was the sweetest dog. And I was like, we got to put a plan together. I reached out to one of our vet clinics. They were like, yes, we will fix him at a discount. They were just great. And so I told him that. And when I went to pick him up the night before his neuter, he was like, I can't take him back. And I was like, okay, like Karen said, you get to a situation and things change. So I got him in the car. It was really hard to get him in the car. He knew something was wrong because I had his bed, I had all his toys. And I called my husband on the way home and I was like, we got room for a dog tonight? He was like, I guess so. And so we had him for 2 nights. And my husband ended up surrendering him to Oregon Humane. And it was so hard for him. But it just was like that was what that man needed. And we went and, I went in ready to rip him a new one. We ended up fixing his cats and we ended up rehoming his dog. And it changed me because it was like, he was just in this really bad place, but I'm so thankful that we got to help him and that he trusted me enough to do what was right by Canelo. And it was my husband doesn't let me keep any kittens. He's really firm on like, you aren't going to be a foster fail. And we almost foster failed on Canelo. It was really hard for him, but it was kind of something in our relationship where he always has let me do the cat thing, but he really supported me hard with that dog situation because I knew it was really hard for him to take him there and give him up. But I'm really glad that we were able to take that really big burden off of his shoulders while he was going through one of the toughest times of his life.
Hmm.
So that is always gonna stick with me. And I always try to remember him when people are hurting and say really nasty things to us because I don't know their situation.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna talk about him, but it's like he had a really huge impact on me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just that human experience and understand, like, yeah, like you said, kind of making space to understand that people are suffering. And I think, no one wants to be in these bad situations. And
No, I mean, he wouldn't have asked for that. And just knowing him and knowing what our veterans go through and the sacrifices that they agreed to make when they signed up, not knowing what that meant for them,
yeah,
it just added a whole nother layer for me, knowing so much more about our veterans and being able to look at him on a deeper level than that.
thank you for that.
I can't really beat that story. But that story with Canelo and Emily, like that is kind of what we do is we come in and we do the whole thing. We don't just if they've got a couple outside cats, but then they have unfixed cats inside, or they have way more cats, or then now whatever it is, and their neighbor has cats, and someone else down the street has cats because I mean, that's how it works, right? They start to branch off and branch off, and then it becomes more of a community problem, right? And we're actually known for going in and doing the whole thing, and whatever that means, whether that is really unloading a bunch of their friendly cats, maybe with shelter partners or other rescues, or getting all the kittens out. Like that's what we do, and I'm really proud of that. Probably a situation a situation that early on I was called by an older woman to help fix a couple cats that she had. And it was a mom and a couple kittens, and then the kittens were getting plucked off. And then I went out there, and I think there was only one left. And it was older by then. And but I got lost in this mobile home park trying to find her, and I ended up on the back street where literally there were dozens of cats, and they were breeding and fighting and chasing each other. And I was just like, oh my gosh, what is this? What? And she's like, you're never going to get them to help you. They refuse to be helped when I found the house. And I said, I'm not going to let that deter me. And so I started going back and knocking on doors. Um, and it was an older couple, health problems, a lot of that had all the cats. He didn't want help. The wife did want help. I kept going back. And then before it was over, though, in like, this is a mobile home park where now we've done the whole park, and there's a few hundred units, and we've done well over 350 cats here. And, the first weekend we trapped 40 cats, and removed like 3 or 4 litters into rescues. And then we just kept going. Just at the 2 houses across the street, who was a who was had a man who had a traumatic brain injury, and then this couple who ended up he died quickly of stomach cancer. She got evicted, left a bunch of cats. They all ended up over here, but they were all up and down the street, but there were cats all through this park. And so it's the management loves us there. They call us when there's some new cats. We continue to do maintenance on here, and it stays at about 98%
Wow.
spayed and neutered, which is a fantastic. I mean, it's taken years, and we constantly go back, and and I think that's just like a huge success story. And we made a difference. All those people who didn't like cats wanted them all gone. I'm like, there's no place for them to go, but we can fix them. And now they understand that, like, everything's calmed down. And this was a high volume call complaint area to Multnomah County Animal Services, so they were aware of this address, and they really appreciate what we've done there because they don't get any calls from there anymore. And all the residents are like, "Oh, it's so much calmer, it's so much quieter. You were totally." Even the management didn't think it was going to make a difference. I'm like, "No, just wait. Once we start getting these cats fixed, all of this is going to settle down." And now there's multiple feeders in this park. There's some of the cats tamed down and become inside cats. And one of the things we also offer as an organization is when we have TNR the colony, we will do follow-on medical care. So if any of those community cats start to get sick, are injured, we will come get them and help with medical care, even if that means like end of life euthanasia,
Mhm.
and because a lot of, this is a retirement community. It's predominantly over 55. Most of them are on fixed incomes,
Yes.
and worried about increasing prices. And part of the things is taking care of these cats and what happens when one gets sick or injured. And so we help, if we have been fixing the colony and we are helping maintain the colony, we will help do that as well.
Wow. It's
And
very
so
impressive. Way to go.
but that was also, it was just super eye-opening because all of the people were kind of different and they had different opinions about the cats. Um, but it was also just making an impact on all those cats. And then whenever you drive back through there, there's a lot of the cats with ear tips. They have friends. They hang out at certain, yards, and it's just always a really, it's and there were some sad cases there too when you started reaching to, other parts of the park. There was a veteran who was an amputee, and we got a really sickly kitten out of there and trapped the mom and got her fixed. And but he died. He was just waiting to die because his wife had died. And
Mhm.
but the neighbors taking care of the mom cat. And it's
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I think, this kind of leads us, I think, pretty naturally into, really talking about your resilience in this work because, each of you are sharing these emotional things that you're witnessing and facing day to day. And so, I wonder how do you how would you define resilience in your own words?
um I think one thing is we've put together a really good team, and so a lot of us rely on each other when you're having a hard time with something to help kind of process this, whether you're like, things you don't get out there fast enough and things have gone sideways. Someone has maybe killed some of the animals
Hmm.
because you didn't
Hmm.
get out there fast enough, or the people are just really irrational, and maybe you have to just walk away from that situation. And um, I think, we're all really transparent within the team, so the team knows what's going on at all of these locations. So then when if something like that were to happen, like we're able to rely on each other. Plus I think a lot of us, like I have some mentors outside of the organization that have done this for a long, long time. And all through as I've grown and been exposed to more and run across, when I first started, I thought everything was really black and white. And then like I would do something where I thought was the right answer, and someone's like, "I can't believe you did that. You didn't have to do that." Da 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 da. And it was just like, Oh, I didn't know. Didn't realize there's all these shades of gray and everything is so different depending on what the details are in that specific situation.
Mhm.
And and I think just having really good people to bounce things off of and be able to communicate with that, I think is really important to help not spiral down a rabbit hole of what you could have done or what you should have
Mhm.
done or,
Mhm.
why did you do that or this is your fault or anything like that. So
Yeah.
it's really important. And you can't go down that way because then it's you're not any help to yourself or the cats or the community or anybody. So I think it's really important. Sometimes I'm not very good with self-care because I've deal with kind of sometimes like the panic of not doing enough, of having to go out there and do it more. Oh, I have one night off this week from trapping. Let me go check out a new place, instead of like, no. And Emily's been really great at pulling me back from that and saying, take some time for yourself. Don't do that right now, and another older rescuer that I'm friends with was like, the kittens and cats are always going to be there. You're never going to run out of cats and kittens, and that's been actually something I pull back on a lot. Like, yeah, a day or two, it's not going to make that much of a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's, when I have a really tough day, I just kind of think about that I'm doing more than I would be doing if I was not involved. And that some days we get it right, some days we can save the day, but we at the end of the day, Oregon is in crisis. And we can work our fingers to the bone. We can go broke. We can, do all of that. But at the end of the day, we can only do what we can do. And within the services that we have and within the lane that we've kind of created for ourselves. And you can't pour from an empty cup, is what I keep telling Karen. It's really important to take time for yourself. And, um, a couple years ago, it was really like we were kind of spinning our wheels on how do we fix more cats. And, last year we kind of broke the code and we figured it out. And
Mm.
we've really been rocking and rolling since then. And so sometimes for me, the resiliency is looking back and going, we weren't fixing any cats, beginning of last year. And the year before that, we were heavily reliant on our high volume spay neuter clinic. And so I think about the wins we've had and what we have done to make more opportunities for ourselves to fix cats. And so for me, I just think about the wins we've had and try not to focus on the losses, even though the losses always have a win in them.
Mm.
They always have a silver lining because even though it doesn't work out the way we wanted, are there's always something good that comes out of it. We always feel a loss really hard when we have a cat who's been out there injured. We finally get it. We're like, yes. And due to the injuries or whatever, they're too far gone. And we end up humanely euthanizing. And those really hit us hard, especially when we feel like they have a chance. And so when those ones happen, I think we just really have to kind of dig back into our bag of wins and say, this cat's no longer suffering because there's nobody else who does what we do when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's nobody else who's willing to go trap an injured cat and either help them recover or help them stop suffering. I mean, Karen's always like, well, I'll hold him for a couple weeks if it's necessary, It's like a feral male who nobody wants to hold, but she's like, I'll do it if I have to. And we go into it with that and sometimes we don't get the cat back, but it's really important that we always try to lift each other up and remind each other that, yeah, we didn't win this one, but we've got more coming.
Yeah.
We don't we're not one that just gets an injured cat and says, oh, it needs to be euthanized. Like we take him to the ER and they do an exam and we follow the recommendations of the
Mm-hmm.
vet. Like we are not afraid of recovering a cat that's had a feral cat that's had an amputation, or holding him for a dental, or holding him for abscess repair, or holding him for, like, we're not afraid of that. Like we have the skills and the ability and the space to do that. And we think that that's important because we think that we believe every cat should have that opportunity to live its best life. But we've these last 9 months, we have had some of the most horrific injuries on multiple
Mm.
cats that we've ever had. And they have just, the hits have just kept coming. We're getting cats with like a completely degloved back of like, 5 to 8 inch square. We're getting like these horrible blown abscesses from wounds that have taken off the skin of the
Mm.
whole back hindquarter moving up into the spine. Like we are getting these,
Riddled with cancer.
yeah,
Mm.
we've had multiple cancer cats, cancers in the jaw and in the mouth. Like that was our first oral cancer case which was a left behind pet from last fall that nobody tried to do anything with until they reached out to us. Like and we didn't, he was long haired, so we didn't see all the damage. We just saw the
Mm.
scraggly
Mhm.
appearance, was hoping he needed a dental, and it was mouth cancer. And there was not like we had, the vet called and said, I need to euthanize him right away. He's in immense pain. And so, we've, I mean, and a lot of these are males, like more of the abscess wounds, the big ones are males that were never fixed between the age of 3 and 5. These were COVID kittens that never got fixed, and it's incredibly sad. But the win is that they're not suffering anymore. It makes us more determined to get these cats. Um, Dove Lewis, our emergency veterinarian that's open 24 hours, they appreciate it every time we bring in a cat like this, that they can end its suffering. And so that is, we have a really great relationship with them, and some of the other 24-hour vets as well. And so it's just, when we have an injured cat, there's a few of our vets that we contact. Vista Pet Hospital is one that is great for getting us in right away for an injured community cat. And we know that they're going to give us a really good assessment on this cat and what can be done. But that's hard work. It is really hard. And we had two one time within like 12 hours. I thought,
Yeah.
oh, we can't beat this. And then we had two within 3 hours. And I'm just like, oh, I need tomorrow off. I just
Yeah.
can't do this,
Yeah.
and people don't understand that it's not that simple. Like there's a lot of emotional toll that goes into that for the whole team, because all of us, even if you weren't involved in that rescue per se, you've been seeing the messages in real time of what's
Yes.
happening in our chat groups. You're seeing it, you're seeing the injury, you're seeing where it's going. Oh my God, and everyone's
You're
really invested.
invested.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so what I'm hearing is it's imperative to have the community within the team and with mentors and the community at large as far as like vets and other support people. So it's imperative to have that community perspective, being able to either look back to see how far you've come and the impact that you've had, being able to see the silver lining in the hard outcomes that, are undesirable. What does keep you going when these things get so hard and maybe it is this onslaught that just doesn't seem to stop? How do you keep going?
I think it's those people that you help that you just know that you completely change their lives, because these people reach out and they are completely helpless. They have no options left. There's no options left for them. And then you come in and you're like, "Oh, we're gonna do this, this, and this." And you keep showing up. You may have a couple difficult conversations with them. Which then you kind of think, "Oh, maybe they're gonna back off. Maybe they're gonna tell me to never call again." But you find a way to work through it, and you do what you say you're going to do, and you get them to a point where you've stabilized their colony and you've completely changed their life. And then you've also allowed them to be honest about this thing that they feel so much shame and guilt for. Everybody always says the same thing. "I know you probably think, I'm so ashamed. People say that. I know you probably think I'm terrible. I'm like, you're like one of 100 people this week who I've called. Like, I mean, I understand that you feel the way you feel, but
Mm.
you're not alone in this. And anybody can end up here. And for me, that's what keeps me going is meeting people who then at the end are just so grateful and they just consider you family now because you've seen the deepest, darkest parts of their lives, the things that they hide from other people, that they shy away from, but they've let you into this like their dirty, big, dirty secret. And you showed them grace and kindness, and it completely changes them whether you realize it or not, you've completely changed their day-to-day lives. And the worry that they had about these cats is still there because, they are older, tend to be older, but that big fear of the what if and the unknown is no longer there. And it's a huge burden lifted off of them. And that's my why.
It's so important when we go into our locations to really be non-judgmental. You cannot go in with judgment. And I think that is where we really are super successful because we're very understanding and we meet them where they are and we tell, and we explain. So you need to then explain the whole process to them as well so that they trust you. So they feel good about letting you in, like Emily said, because that's
Mhm.
been a real difficult, that's been really difficult for them. We see that with a lot of older people, a lot of people at risk that maybe didn't want to leave their house during the pandemic, and they've become much more introverted. And like the cats that they care for, now they're family, but now it's also an increasing problem.
Yeah. It's causing them a lot. Their family is now causing them a lot of stress.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
And speaking about, marginalized communities, it's been really big. This year, we've been making a really big push to get everything into Spanish and
Oh,
going into those communities where maybe documentation is maybe questionable and saying, we don't care about your status at all. We
Yeah.
want to help you with your cats because this looks really stressful. And you've probably got enough going on that having these cats that are continuously having kittens, we'd love to help with that. And we genuinely don't care about your documentation status.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's and it's been we've seen some success with our pamphlets being in Spanish and being placed in those communities
Yeah.
and having someone who's Spanish speaking for them to call and talk to about the process and what to expect.
Yeah, that's incredibly impactful and certainly mindful of the moment. So yeah, but it sounds like yeah, being really connected to that mission and those values is one of the biggest motivators to keep going.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, Karen, I know you said that there's times where you're not very good at taking care of yourselves. I appreciate you being honest about that. Um, So I guess it's a twofold question, obviously, for each of you. But one, how do you know when you are definitely pushing your limits and you know you have to make some space for yourself? And secondarily, how do you take care of yourself, whether that's day to day or in those moments where maybe you're burnt out?
well, a lot of the time I might not recognize it, and Emily tells me. To be honest. But there are times where it's like, I'm just gonna check out. I need to do some other stuff. I can't, I mean, we're all busy during the workday. And so we're at limited time, right? And so it's just sometimes it's like, I'm not going to spend my Sunday. Also, to me to go out let's say I need to go deliver food or something on a Sunday
Mhm.
and I'm going to do it early in the day. It's going to still take me 6 hours to get home because as I drive home, I'm like, I'm going to check in on these people. I'm going to check on these people. Oh, we have a place to check out over here. It takes me forever to get home, and there's my whole day, and I got nothing done. And that literally is me anytime on the weekend I go to check things out. So I really now try to do it like after work to get it done. And then I'm like, I'm going to do this on Sunday. I've also been much more vocal about what I'm going to do on a weekend. I'm going to do this on Friday. making it more of a priority to go see my dad every couple weeks, and that's a couple days, so because he's at the coast. So it's like I'm just been having to like plan my other stuff in. That's been actually really helpful for me, is just like put it on my calendar like it's a trapping appointment, or something. So that's been something for me. I don't know. I'm still not very good at it. You know, but
You're working on it. You're getting,
yeah, we're working on it.
yeah.
Well, it's so great.
Um,
You've got a team member who's looking out for you.
Hmm.
I'm always like, you need to put your phone away. You need to put the music on, set an alarm, do you for an hour. Like, just don't worry about other people, which is funny because that's not really how I recharge. I'm kind of like always on. I have a really hard time kind of turning myself off. So for me, my recharging is like I schedule my nail appointments, every 3 weeks. I've always got my hair appointments scheduled. For me, my self-care is just always scheduling the things that kind of keep me going. When I am like last week, I had a little hiccup with the holiday and the dates in my head, so I had screwed up a transport situation. And so for me, I like told Karen, I'm like, that's like kind of my red flag that I'm overextending and I'm really not present because I don't normally screw stuff up like that. But for me, that was like a big red flag for me to kind of go, okay, I need to just put the phone down today. Because I always have my phone in my hand. I'm always waiting for there's always somebody messaging me about cats all day, every day. So sometimes I have to just kind of be like, I'm disconnecting today. I'm putting my phone away. Sometimes it's my husband saying, you're really losing it. You're really losing yourself. And that's when I have to just kind of I'm taking my first vacation since January after this coming week. And so I'm really looking forward to that and recharging and just really pouring into my own cup. So I'm a little bit different, but I think it's just the way my brain is just always,
Oh yeah.
I'm always thinking about stuff and better ways to do stuff and improvement. And, you know, I'm like, I thought about that last night in bed at like 1, like, what am I
Yeah.
doing up? Like, girl, go to bed.
I know. Why do we do our best thinking at 1 a.m.?
Oh, like, oh my gosh, stars, like 5 stars, this idea. It's so great.
Yeah, I love the idea of definitely putting things in schedules, right, and trying to prioritize them. And I think,
Absolutely.
like even just, Karen, you were talking about just the ritual you had of like how you were going through your weekends, and if it takes, I think the things that we ritualize or make habits around, it's kind of a signal to ourselves like this is important, and so like obviously in the work you do, it's very important to you. And as you're trying to work on scheduling some things in for yourself or, planning ahead for a vacation or something, I think that's just another way that we can signal like this is important. I do need to take care of this because it's not on our radar. If we don't make time for it, it becomes not important.
I mean, and one of the things in doing what I'm doing is that I love checking in. I've made such relationships with people. And so I love checking in to see how they're doing, how are the cats doing. And it's great to pull up to a place and all you see are ear-tipped cats, Or you pull up and you're like, hey, who's that new one? And they're like, oh, I've been meaning to call you. A lot of the times people don't want to bother us. And so we might not know until it's a problem. And so it's like by checking in, I mean, but that's just also a way to rationalize it,
Yeah,
right? Of
yeah.
spending my whole, like I could drive around all week long in all different parts of town and be busy with people all day long. And so it's like, just having like, I need to not leave my house today. I'm not going to leave my house. You know, um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Are you just out of curiosity, are you like would you consider yourself to be kind of extroverted in that way or
It's so funny. I'm kind of like, I'm super social like that, but then I also get like this if I'm at like an event or like a holiday party and I'm on, all the time, I really have like a social hangover afterwards. I have
right.
like a monster headache. It's hard for me to get going. Um, and I don't drink, so it's not any kind of hangover like
Yes.
that. Like it's, but and I've always been like that. Like when I've worked a lot in like the service industry, and then it's like my days off, I don't get up till half the day is over. I don't leave my house. I don't want to talk to anyone. And so it's kind of like this I don't know, it's like two separate sides of the coin.
Yeah.
But that's why I love the outreach part so much in the organization and making contact with those people and finding out and getting in and knowing how we can help them. And then we got to follow it up with action. And
Mhm.
I'm really proud that we do that. We are the only ones that are going to be taking on these larger colonies. We're the only ones that are going to be able to do that and do it right and do it in full. And that is just super rewarding emotionally to be able to do that. We have a fantastic team that is not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not
I'm hearing
afraid
that.
of,
I'm hearing that.
it takes a lot to scare us. We are not afraid.
That's it's amazing. It's amazing you guys are out there doing the work that you do. It's also very fascinating. I want to be mindful of time. So if you were to give someone who's interested in whether that's joining, something that you're doing or just as a broad getting into the animal welfare space, what advice would you give to them?
Do you want to take that, Emily?
Well, you can take it. I'll take, getting involved with us.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
that, you can get involved with us and do as little as transporting. It involves a tarp in the back of your car and being willing to spend an hour or two of your free time just transporting a cat back or forth to clinic. It doesn't have to be big, but that is huge and meaningful. And we're always looking for people who, whether it's trapping, transporting, or fostering, we're always looking for people.
Yeah, great. Yeah, even I like the concept of small action is a big action.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
huge. Even if you can't do, the pickup and the drop off, if you're just doing like the AM drop off, somebody, that makes it easier for one person who maybe could only do the PM.
Um, I think kind of maybe talk to a few people and see like what Emily said, what you want to do, how much you want to do, or what you can fit into your schedule. There's the quote like, "Oh, cat rescue is like the mafia. Once you're in, you can't get out," and that's kind of true in some ways. So it's really important to kind of know what your limits are. You don't want to, alienate your whole family and your kids and your spouse or your partner. And you don't want it to come at serious financial expense. We know plenty of people who have just gone financially off the rails due
Oh,
to
sure.
funding everything themselves or doing, getting involved with stuff like that. And then we know people whose marriages have imploded because of this kind of thing. So I think, I think that's kind of what is your capacity? What do you think? And find out how realistic that is and what that involves. A lot of people think fostering is cute little kittens and then and they don't understand that maybe you have to hold them until they're adopted if you're not
Mhm.
working with like the larger organizations that has a facility. And then you're like, oh my God, they're 6 months old, I've had them for 5 months, I didn't know, and that's a common misconception with a lot of rescues. Or we don't have cute cuddly kittens, they don't start that way. Like we
No.
have sick parasite ridden upper
Yeah.
respiratory infection semi-feral gross
They're
kittens,
cute.
right?
Yeah, they're cute in all the wrong ways.
Yeah. So I mean, just, is that what you signed up for? What exactly are you signing up for? I think for
And knowing what your limits are going to be within your county, because services are so different from county to county, or non-existent. So it's important to know what's available to you in order to accomplish whatever goals you have. If all you're doing is trapping cats, fixing them at Feral Cat Coalition and returning them, then that's pretty doable. But if you are looking at, diverting kittens or getting older cats off the street, it's really important that you understand the system in which you are trying to work within,
Yeah.
because you could end up with a lot of cats that you then are unable to get rid of.
That's a great point. We see that a lot of people who take in cats and they don't know that, like, oh, you mean they took in an older cat that was abandoned, and like, oh, there's a wait list for senior cats and it's 6 months long,
Or
Yeah.
so
you
now what?
can't, or in, Multnomah County, if you find a cat and try to put it into the Oregon Humane Society, you actually have to hold that cat for 120 days, 6 months. A long time before they will even think about taking that cat from you. So it's really important to know what the rules are on that type of stuff before you get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Or you trap a cat and you don't realize that you have to have made the appointment in advance at Feral Cat Coalition.
Yes, never
and they're
trap
like,
without a plan. Never
you know,
trap
yeah,
without a
never
plan.
trap without a plan. So then they trap. They're like, I've got this cat in a trap. Now I don't know what to do with it. You know, my vet won't take it. My vet doesn't do ferals. I can't. It's going to cost me $400. You know, like people like, what do I do now? I've got this cat in a trap.
Yeah.
So it's really important to understand, like whatever capacity you want to be involved in, you have to understand what's available to you.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are really powerful points to have the information, have a realistic look at what you're really getting into and as well as just really being honest with yourself and the people around you about what you're actually capable of doing. And
yes.
Yeah, that's very valuable. Well, obviously what you guys are doing is incredibly valuable and just really frankly impressive. So thank you for doing everything that you're doing while also juggling your own lives. And if people wanted to get involved with PDX Cat Trapper, how do they do that?
They can reach out through our website, pdxcattrapper.org.com.
.org.
And there's a volunteer link. You can just sign up. It sends an email to our volunteer onboarder and she'll get the process started for you depending on what you're interested in.
Great. And I'm guessing they can find you on social media platforms in general.
Yes, Karen has started the TikToks. We're on Instagram and Facebook, and we're hoping to have a YouTube up and running by the end of the year.
Awesome. That's great. Well, I will get all of those links from you. I'll put them in the show notes so everyone can access that for sure.
Oh, great.
Yes. Well, thank you both so much for participating in these discussions. Thank you for your candidness and openness and vulnerabilities. Appreciate that. And wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Thank you again to PDX Cat Trapper for sharing their story. If you were moved by this episode, please leave a review, or share it with a friend. Until next time, may we all find our own tale of resilience. Thanks for joining us on Tales of Resilience. If today's story moved you, reminded you of your own path, or gave you something to think about, please consider sharing this episode with someone else who cares. You can follow us on Instagram at zodi.paws and animal.rescuehub to stay connected, or visit zodipaws.com or animalrescuehub.org to learn more about both of these organizations. And you can also email us directly at info@animalrescuehub.org. And if you or someone you know has a story worth sharing, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, be kind to yourself and never underestimate the power of a tale and a little resilience.